Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, your show host, and I am excited to welcome my friend who I've actually known for quite some time because we shared a stage together in 2017.
Yes.
Dr. Brooke Jones. So please tell us who you are, what you do, and we will launch in.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for having me. It has been a number of years since we've been acquainted and worked together, and I'm Brooke Jones, and I am the founder and president of Stronger Women. We help survivors of abuse and violence. We're going to talk, I have a few other businesses as well, but we'll talk more about that. I'm fortunate, I'm married to Rick. I have two wonderful children of ours, 18 and 17 years old. We also have the pleasure of having 4 older children, and we have 4 grandchildren.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So we've been in McKinney for almost 20 years, and we have been loving to live in this area, to raise our family in this area, and to earn our livelihood. And we've loved McKinney and all the surrounding areas. And I just can't wait to be here to have a conversation and get to know your listeners and really share something that matters.
No, I love that. Well, and of course, we came to McKinney 15 and a half years ago, and it is a great place to live. We absolutely love it. Okay, so what's it like being a grandmother? I'm so ready.
Okay.
I mean, my boys have to start dating first, but just to be clear.
Yeah. So as a blended family, it's interesting because these are the older kids, right? They're not my biological kids, but yet they feel like family, right?
Right.
And so I'm loving the fact that these are these beautiful humans. They are just like, they're precious and they're so sweet and they just love you unabashedly. Like I'm a Mimi, okay?
Oh, okay, good. I was going to say, what's your grandma name?
My grandma name is Mimi, and that has worked out really well, and I love it. And I think what'll happen is it'll be a transition with my own 2 kids because I feel like they're still too young yet for that.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling I'll have another transition, and that'll be a wonderful thing.
Oh, that's awesome. I know. I joke with people that I'm ready to be a grandparent, but my kids actually have to start dating.
Yes.
So, but they're, I'm prayerful that the Lord will bring the right woman into their lives.
That's it.
So you founded Stronger Women, and what led you to that? Because, and tell me again, you specifically serve what group of women?
We specifically serve domestic violence survivors.
Okay.
Now, there are many forms of abuse, so a lot of people get mistaken. They think if it's not hitting, it's not abuse. Well, that is a misnomer. Abuse can be many, many ways, not physical, right? It can be emotional. Yeah. It can be spiritual. It can be isolation. It can be any form of dependency through power and control tactics. And so I started Stronger Than Espresso, actually.
That's right.
Yes,
I remember that.
It was. And it was September 19th, 2006. And God said those words to me. He said, Stronger Than Espresso. And he said 5 things. And Elizabeth, I'm so glad I wrote them down. I wrote them down on a little recipe card. That became the curriculum that we still use today in Stronger Than Espresso. And that curriculum, it is a 5-step healing process called the Stronger Than Espresso healing process. So our women that come through our class, they go through a process of becoming stronger than espresso. And that is a process of 2 12-week classes that they go through. They work on first self-evaluation, right? You really have to know what you're doing, what is happening inside you, what am I thinking about, how is that making me react? Then we have to work on communication skills. What are healthy relationships? What does that look like? And how do I stand my ground when I've always, when I want to say yes, I always say no.
Yeah. Or you acquiesce, right? And don't say anything.
Right. So we spend more time talking about why you can't set a healthy boundary than spending, memorize 4 steps to boundary setting. No, my friend, it's more about what's happening within you that doesn't allow you to set the boundary. So then we move them into a whole self-esteem several weeks in self-esteem, because self-esteem after abuse is destroyed. And that is a place where foundationally you have to just start being able to even love yourself, forgive yourself. There's so much shame that goes with domestic violence. So while I heard that from the Lord, the story started many, many years ago. As a young girl, I was brought into a family that, unfortunately, as Elizabeth, there was all different types of abuse. There was physical abuse, there was sexual abuse, there was spiritual abuse, and it was not really a safe home to live. And that is the situation and family that I grew up in. That led me to becoming a teenager while I was always trying to achieve, right? I was a people pleaser. I did top marks, all the things, but it was really to try to find love, attention, approval, all the things, right? So in that, I led myself into many, many abusive and toxic teenage relationships, right? They didn't get better because there was no model for me to learn from. There was no talk about teen dating and violence. People didn't talk about abuse. And we were in a very isolated spiritual sect. So that made it even more difficult to find really the truth about what is this about.
Okay.
So that led me as an adult woman, I thought, I'm going to get an education, because to me, that was the way out. And I immediately, on my 18th birthday, my dad kicked me out of my house. He said, my legal limit to you is done.
Wow.
So he put me out on the front, and I was on my own, and I had to make it. I was just turned 18. It was a week after my 18th birthday, and it took several months, and I was homeless in a city where I lived. I was walking around, and I had all my things in a garage, like a garbage cart, or a grocery cart.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, where am I going to go? And I remembered I had met a boy somewhere, and I knew where he lived, and I went up to his apartment.
Wow.
And that began my relationship. That became my first husband. Okay. So right there, you can imagine that was not a relationship built on trust and true values and equality. It was built on...
I'm in need, and I need you to save me.
Yes. A lot of dysfunction, a lot of abusive tactics. And so that went on, and that was... many women returned to the abusive relationship up to 7 times. All right. So a lot of times when someone's telling me they're leaving, I'm always asking, how many times has it been? Right? Because unfortunately, it gets more dangerous every time you return. And most friends, family will get exhausted helping you after about the 3rd or 4th time.
I mean, I'm appreciating that you're even bringing that piece into it, because I'm like, you're right. I just hearing that statistic that most women will return to their abuser 7 times, and that the people around them, they see it's not good, right?
Yes.
And so in their mind, they're like, why are you going back?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to pause here, because when I think about thinking, and you said something that caught my attention, that you spend more time figuring out what's going on inside of them about why they can't set boundaries than to here's 4-step process for setting boundaries. Because you and I both know we can present a 4-step process, but if it's not right in their head, they'll never actually do it.
Correct.
Or they'll do it, but they're just giving lip service to it.
Exactly. Or they're doing it in sort of a self-sabotage pattern where they're defeating their self. And it's like, if they could just get out of their own way and put their both feet on the ground. But the problem is abuse has tainted that. It has put shame as such a factor. They have been so destroyed.
How have you found, because I think about, okay, so I want to just anchor what you just said.
Sure.
Because my listeners hear me talk all the time about the development of neural pathways, how strong they are and how difficult they are to shift, to change in the brain.
Yes.
And that's why I'm always telling people, you didn't get to where you are thinking overnight, and you will not change how you're thinking overnight. Okay, so for someone who has experienced abuse, and I know, what's your PhD in?
Theology.
Theology, okay. So what have you found is happening in the mind? I know this is a broad question.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of, you probably have observed some patterns in the minds of abused women that get them on this path of, this is just the way that it is. Like, this is my normal.
Yes. Yeah, normal shifts. So when you are in an abusive relationship, abuse doesn't start at all at once.
Yeah.
If it did start all at once, no one would be in abusive relationships. We would leave them because we would realize immediately.
All of a sudden, I mean, like
this
the red
isn't
flags
good.
go off,
Yeah.
and you're like, no.
Right. So the challenge with an abusive relationship is that it's about power and control.
You mentioned that. Yes.
So the key to every tactic is about power and control. And it uses coercion. It uses fear. It uses manipulation. Any tactic I can get to get you to do what I want, the way I want it, when I want it. Okay, so I am systematically taking you as a human being, and I'm taking away like part of your soul. Like when you are in an abusive relationship, it is like you are being taken away and you become a hollow shell of what used to be a vibrant person. The person literally takes away almost this sort of life essence that you have. And what happens is because you become so afraid of the abuse, they have coerced you. They have threatened you. They have told you they're going to tell your children something. They have done something. They're going to, you're such a terrible mother and no one would ever love you. Over time, the conditioning breaks a person down.
Yes.
You can't just psychologically warfare a person without it having an impact on another human being.
Amen.
Abuse is an assault on another person's worth. And that is abuse, whatever case, whether it's men abusing women, women abusing men, or same sex, it doesn't matter. It's when two humans abuse each other, they're putting an assault on the other person's worth. So what happens to her, and I was her, Elizabeth, so I can speak to this because I was her, right? It's not like I worked with thousands of women.
Correct.
But in my own journey, okay, so yes, I married husband one, but I got out of that, okay? Back in that day, it was battered wives syndrome. That's what they used to call it, battered wives. And people didn't talk about domestic violence.
Yeah.
So I did
It was really a taboo topic.
It was very taboo. So this was in the 90s. So I got a divorce and I thought, I'm going to be okay. But what happened was because I didn't know, I was very successful in my career and I made a lot of money. It made me feel strong and confident and everything. Well, here came Mr. Wonderful. Well, Mr. Wonderful, too, was Mr. Dangerous, super abuser, but I didn't know. What happened immediately, and this is what always happens with abuse, two things have to happen.
Okay.
There's isolation that must take place and dependency. So what he did was he first said to me, hey, Brooke, you don't need that money from your job. I have everything we need.
Just quit your job.
Just quit your job and let it all go. So first thing I did, I'm thinking I'm going to start a family, right? In my mind, I'm building dreams.
Right.
I'm building hopes. I'm building a story in my mind of where this marriage is going to take me and where this love is going to take me. So I quit my job. Next thing, I live in the town where I grew up. I have my family there, my social networks. Everybody knows me, all the things. And he says, Brooke, let's go write our own love story. Let's move across the country where we're just the two of us, and let's just go start our own life all by ourselves. Now, that sounds actually really romantic and wonderful, but what was happening, he was very abusive, and he was taking me away to isolate me. And the minute that I was isolated away from friends and family, I was across the country, there wasn't someone I could call. Abuse started like I had never seen before. He started abusing me, started screaming F-bombs, started taking my car away. He wouldn't let me drive anywhere. So it was like over a few years period, I became like kind of a hostage. Yeah. But I was more of a hostage. So we were wealthy. So that made it even more difficult. And I'll tell you that affluence makes abuse even more difficult because they're even more afraid to step out and let someone know, because I have this perfect picture life and I'm supposed to have it all together. Abuse in those situations is even sometimes more dangerous. So in my case, I let it progress. I didn't know any different. My husband, abuse always escalates. So one night, he thought I was going to leave him, and he beat me. My husband beat me so severely. He broke my glasses. He took my phone. He also had decided to hold me hostage. So he held me hostage for a day and a half. And so it's like you think about this, and like, this is my husband, right? Like, this is my husband. That's why abuse is so messed up, because you don't go through that without major trauma.
Yeah.
Right? What is love? How it changes everything. So here I am. I escape down a street. A taxi takes me to an emergency room. I'm there. And these police come into this room and they're like domestic violence and they're talking to me and I can do this and I can do this. This was back in the day and this was early days. And now I've realized I'm amazed I could have done all those things. But what did I do?
You went back.
Of course I did. I called him from the hospital. He picked me up. He took me to get the Vicodin for the wounds that he caused. I mean, it was just such, and I was right back. But then it was more dangerous because I was back. And then I started realizing I'm going to leave in a body bag. And I knew, Brooke, you got to get out of here. So I thought I was going to do what any Western woman can do, right? I was going to file for a divorce. So I thought that was a smart thing. Well, that just made him upset. Two things happened. The state went after him for the battery and the criminal battery cases without my knowledge. And so all of a sudden he was being charged with domestic violence, which made him angry. And then on the other side, he started stalking me. So he was charged with stalking and criminal stalking and aggravated stalking. So he had like all this stuff going on. After 2 years of all of that, not one court case, not one thing happened to him. Does that make sense? Like not one thing happened.
Wow.
I turned into a person that was a hollow shell. I couldn't work. I couldn't live. I had to be hiding all the time. And it became this way that I was just this waif. I wasn't even alive. Suicidal. I mean, just destroyed. And I remember it was June of 2005, and my aunt, we had a mediation, like a last time mediation.
Yes.
And my aunt, who is still my pit bull family member today, she came from Texas, and she came and she was like, we're getting her out of here. And she said to him, let her go. And he said, I won't until I destroy her.
Wow.
And she said, and I tell you, Elizabeth, I must have looked kind of bad then because apparently she must have looked over at me and said, you have. And however I looked was enough for him to see he had destroyed me enough that he signed me off for my divorce. And it was like being signed off like an object, like I was a car, a trailer, just, all right, we'll let her go. We'll get rid of her. And then I was free. I was free to leave the state that I had been held hostage in through this whole like divorce and domestic violence. It was multi-years, and I could come to Texas. So that is how I ended up coming to the great state of Texas. And once I got here, it was like, don't mess with Texas. It was like, do not even come to this state because you don't belong here, right? So that was many, many years ago. That was in 2005.
Wow.
It took me a full year before I could work again. I had to learn how to like bring all that trauma down, the anxiety, how to sleep again, how to even have a relationship with a person. And I'm not talking romantic relationships, just having I can trust another human being.
Oh, it's got to be so tough. I mean,
it's the journey back.
Yeah, the trust aspect.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you have everything taken from you. I mean, truly, that is, I have to imagine in all relationships, not just romantic ones, it would be very difficult because, and that's one of the things that in my brain research around neural pathways, and it's that, you know, neurons that fire together wire together, and emotion is like a glue that makes it more sticky.
Yes.
This is why I always tell people, this is why post-traumatic stress disorder is like a thing, because the emotion and the trauma of the event, now for you, it was a multi-year trauma, right?
Yes.
But the emotion that's attached to that makes it even more sticky from a neural pathway standpoint. So I can imagine that all relationships would be impacted. All aspects of your life would be impacted, actually, is what I'm hearing you say. And man, so at what point did you go, I'm going to turn this horrific past for good and help other people? What was the tipping point for you?
Well, it was the moment that God spoke to me and said, stronger than espresso.
Okay.
It was that day, because when he said, stronger than espresso, and he said the 5 things, I wrote them down, and I said, what is this? And he said, I need you to start writing And that's what I did. And I'll be really honest with you. At first, this is back in 2006, right? We weren't getting web names and we weren't doing anything. Right. We were just like, what? And I'm like, stronger than espresso. How do you even spell that? Like, I don't even know. And so I start writing and I'm thinking, I'm going to be famous. Like, I'm thinking, I'm going to be whatever. Well, he was like, oh no, Brooke, it's not about you. It's about me. So literally I wrote from 2006 all the way to 2012. I wrote. In the meantime, I worked as a corporate trainer. I got a master's degree in education. And the entire time I worked on this project. And to speak back to the medical aspect of domestic violence survivors, post-traumatic stress disorder is a huge, just like vets, it is a huge clinical diagnosis that many survivors deal with. Anxiety, anything autoimmune, RA, those are the kinds of things, a lot of early cancer, those are the kinds of things that we see with survivors dealing as they're struggling because of that internal stress that they have had to swallow. And I really am excited about the opportunity God gave me because I started writing and it was 2012 and I had this faith-based program. Okay, so it was like God gave me, there's 100 scriptures in our original curriculum. It's in its 4th edition now. We still have all the same scriptures, but it was just like God brought this process. And so I wrote it and I was like, we gotta tell the world. But here I was in McKinney with this faith-based program in 2012, going to the church saying, can we talk about domestic violence? And the church was not ready for me. They were like, this lady is talking about things nobody's talking about. And so it was really hard to get somebody to actually listen to me. But one pastor, he took me under his wing at Genesis Church. It was Charlie Tuttle. He's in McKinney here. And he said, Brooke, you can have your first class. And that was in February of 2013. Since that time, that same year, we added 5 classes, and then it just kept going. So Stronger Than Espresso became, we do classes for survivors so they can come through this healing process, right? It's a healing process. Then I do Train the Trainer. What I found immediately is about a third of my graduates want to teach the class to other women.
Sure, because they want to use it for good.
Exactly.
That's part of the healing process. That's part of how you bring your nervous system back into alignment because you recognize there's a bigger picture at play. Exactly. You can turn what was meant for evil to good.
Exactly. And so the women, when they come through, part of the process is at the end of the time, they get a chance to refine their story. And they're redefining. Our second class is called Redefine Your Life because they're truly at a place where they're redefining their life. When you think about their networks and their partnerships and their relationships, when you have domestic violence, you often have to leave everything behind. It's not just I left my things behind. I left my sofa behind. I left my church. I left my job. I left my family. I left all my friends. I left everything. And you have to relocate and start over. And your kids, if you have kids, they have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Why can't we go back? Mom, why can't we go back and live in our big house like we used to with Dad? Mom, Dad says that you're making us try to live in this car. Dad doesn't know why you're doing this to us. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. It's like everything about her journey out of this domestic violence relationship is trying to keep her back. It's like society wants her to stay in the marriage. Like we do want people to stay in their marriage, and I'm really for marriage. But when abuse is identified, that's when we have to change the playbook. We have to say we respond differently. We can't respond to an abusive relationship and partnership and counsel the way we do if it's just
that's
a dysfunction.
Correct. Yeah.
We have to be trained to know the difference.
So that's, wow. I know that your Stronger Than Espresso has been going strong. So when you and I first met, or I first learned about you was in 2017.
Oh,
so
right.
That was 4 years after you had already really started getting traction on your support and help. Well, for the sake of time, I know that Stronger Women isn't the only thing you do.
Yes.
But it definitely, it's clear in hearing you talk about it. One, because you are that woman, to use your words, and you want to help other women who are presently where you once were.
Correct.
It's your passion is very evident for that. And I have such respect. Before we before we step off of Stronger Women, what's the best way for them to learn more about Stronger Women and Stronger Than Espresso classes?
Sure. The best way for them to do it is to go to our website, strongerwomen.com. They can also email me, Brooke, Brooke, at strongerwomen.com. We have survivor support groups. We have classes going. We have training coming up. So please reach out. We want to connect you, whether you need help or you want to be of help. Either way, we can get people involved.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So you had mentioned briefly at the very first part of the podcast that you have multiple businesses. So I want you to talk about that. What led you, when you think about what led you to, we talked about Stronger Women, but what had you thinking, I want to have multiple businesses?
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I will speak to, yes, Stronger's my passion. Everyone knows that 100%. But as a survivor, I still struggle. And I say this, I still struggle. I've had years of help to recover. I still struggle with low self-esteem. I still struggle with, can I do it? I still struggle with fear. I still struggle with those things. And I have to intentionally work my pathways because sometimes I get triggered and I go back into old behaviors and things. So I want to share with everybody part of the reason why I launched other businesses was part of because I thought I couldn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I was so afraid I couldn't.
In a sense, you were proving to yourself that you could.
Yes. So my husband and I worked together in 2018. We started a business called Classic Home Dallas. We sell indoor window coverings, outdoor motorized screens, and louvered roof pergolas. We have a showroom by Nebraska Furniture Mart in the Colony, and we've been doing that business since 2018, and it has grown extensively. I used to work full-time at the business, but last year, because Stronger was suffering, we decided that I was going to leave Classic Home full-time and come back and really try to shore Stronger so we could ensure that the mission stayed. Now that business, my role there, while my husband runs the operations and the business, my role there is to ensure that the operational soundness and that everyone does, that we lift the bar up. I'm coming behind all the employees. I get to call all the salespeople appointments and check and make sure that they're doing everything. We're checking our daily delight calls are done. We're checking. So my role as the owner is just overseeing that we're taking care of our customers and that we're growing. And that business has been really exciting. COVID really grew that business for us. And like I said, we're just a local small business. We're not part of a big box. We're not a franchise. We're just starting our own business. So I always just tell everybody, you can do it if you want to start a business. And if you want to learn how or talk about it, feel free to call me. The other thing I also do is I do aviation insurance. So in the last year, I got relicensed to sell insurance. I can sell all kinds of insurance. But in this last year, I realized that I only wanted to do aviation insurance, which ties back to insurance that I did in my 20s.
Okay.
So sort of a strange thing, but not really. And I wanted to talk more and just bring up the point that domestic violence has a long tail. So while I left my abusive husband, it took me a couple years to get divorced. When I got to Texas, he didn't stop bothering me. There would be birthday cards that would show up at our house with my new husband. And when my kids were born, he would send cards. So thankful for Austin. So thankful for Ivy. I hope you're having a good birthday. Now remember, we have a restraining order, a lifetime restraining order. He's not supposed to do that. And a birthday card doesn't seem too dangerous.
Right.
But when you've been stalked by a person 15 years later and birthday cards are still coming, he's still telling me,
I know where you are.
Yeah, I can see you. And so that's the thing about domestic violence. People don't realize that the tail of it is so long. And fortunately, I didn't have children with that individual, but women that do have children recognize the court system and the custody alignment system is another abusive pathway for them as they go through till their kids age out of that system.
Wow. Yeah. That's, it's such a great point. And again, that it is a way, because you said isolation dependency.
Yes.
That was one of the things, but it comes down to power and control.
Yeah.
So, even just by sending something that would make you aware that he knows where you are, it's like a power move. That's the way I see it. It's a power move.
It is a power move, right? He did that intentionally to tell me I'm in power and you're not, and I know where you are. I know your family. I know what's important to you. I know how to get to you.
Wow.
That's years later. So like, what's up with that? But that's what domestic violence, and that's why people don't really understand. That's why when helping someone with domestic violence, using your ears and more, because we really have to ask them, what would they like to do next? And that's the process we do at Stronger. We do what's called hope navigation. And we really try to teach hope as a skill to people as they're going through a really difficult time, because if they can muster the hope in there's goals, pathways, and willpower. And those three things together create hope as a skill.
I'm sure there are many, okay? So I want to caveat my question.
Sure.
Pick one. As someone who has experienced and walked alongside of so many women who have gone through domestic violence, what would you identify as maybe one of the top limiting beliefs that they need to overcome, and how you do it, how you help them do it, how you did it? I want to give a practical, and I know there are many. That's why I'm saying I know there are many. If you had to pick one, what would that one limiting belief be coming out of domestic violence?
I would say that the person deserved that. If they believe they deserved abuse, that is probably the most difficult belief to overcome. If you feel that you deserve it, then it's an acceptance. And the only reason they feel they deserve it is because they've been whittled down by another human being, and that assault on their worth has done it. So what I would say to a person is that know you have dignity. You have value. Wherever you are in your walk of faith, I'm a woman of faith, and I would tell you that you're a daughter of the great King and that you are an amazing child of God. And other people may not see that in themselves yet, right? But if you can come and be with some other women who can look at you and say, you know what, Elizabeth, I love your smile. You brought that beautiful thing today. That is one step where we can begin to help somebody else feel that they have value. And I think that's where it starts. You did not deserve to be abused. You didn't do something. It wasn't because you were less than. It wasn't because you could have been a better this or that. Someone decided that they were going to abuse you as the way that they have a relationship with you. And that's not your fault.
Yeah, that's so, there's a couple of things just from a principle standpoint that I want to pull out before we begin our wrap up, that it is challenging when someone believes they deserve something, because that belief, becomes stored. And so then they process everything through that filter of, I believe I deserve this. And so there were a couple of things that you said. One, it's what you know. Knowing that you have dignity, knowing who you are apart from anybody else. That is why I believe having a faith connection is so important, because then we are looking to God as our creator, and it establishes him as ultimate authority. And then as we learn more about him and understand him, how much he loves us, all of the ways in which he desires to engage. So that helps in the knowing, is my point. And then the third thing that you mentioned is community. You didn't use that word per se, but being around other women is what you said. That can complement your smile or your hair or your dress. Love the blue dress, by the way. That makes a difference in helping someone to begin to work their way out of wrong believing. Right. And I would just add too that wrong believing comes from wrong thinking for most people, right? And the wrong thinking comes from what are you being told over and over. You used a word that I thought was so power and control, obviously, but you said systematically taking away.
Yes.
Right, someone's value or worth. And then the other word that you use that I think is so important as it relates to thinking is conditioning. Like a person is being conditioned to think a certain way, to think I deserve it. And the more I think I deserve it, the more I begin to believe that I deserve it, which means then I just accept it. So that breaking that pattern is so important. And I appreciate you sharing it. So you've mentioned in a couple of different ways, but I want you to maybe give it I want you to share it in a more definitive way. How has faith played a role for you? Because you have been that woman.
Yes.
You are helping these women. How has faith played a role for you personally, the Brooke that is sitting in front of me, and professionally as the business owner, as the 501c3, founder? What role has it played?
Sure. Faith is a foundation for me for everything in my life. That is just something that's happened. I was raised in a home that had spiritual components, but it wasn't really a connection with God or religion or faith. And I became a Christian in my 30s. And it was me having an experience with God where he took me out into the ocean and he was with me and we laughed and it was like angels were all around me. And I was like, this is the moment. And that was the same year that he spoke Stronger Than Espresso to me. And it was just in those moments. And in the dark times, Elizabeth, when I was going through the stalking, I had a Bible and I wouldn't really open the Bible too much, but I would hold the Bible. And then somebody told me to open to the Psalms. Yeah. And I got in there and I found what I needed there. And it started my walk of faith. And I ended up coming to know so much my Father and Jesus Christ and just my connection with that Holy Spirit and higher power. How that has changed me is, as you know, Stronger Than Espresso is based on words from God.
Yes.
Everything I do, every business that we found, my husband and I, we found it as what we call a business tree.
I love that, a business tree.
Because we
call it marketplace ministry, but I love that business tree.
We found that we find that we are supposed to minister in the business space.
Yes, same here.
I love that. Through Stronger. We do it through our other businesses, and that's how all of our businesses are founded. God first is our founding value.
I love that. Oh my goodness, business tree. I can't wait to tell Fred that because, and I think that's an important piece too. What you just said, just because it resonates so much with me, that as individuals, especially in the entrepreneurial space, but even outside of the entrepreneurial space, if they're in a corporate space, it is understanding what is your ministry. For some, that's working full-time in a church or possibly in a faith-based nonprofit. For others of us, it is in the business community, and it's how we engage. It's how we treat people. It is how we come alongside people. There's so many aspects of it.
Yes.
And so I love knowing that and the term business tree. Again, that's gonna stick with me. Well, I ask every guest, why do you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters? Because from hearing everything that you've experienced, what it took to come out of it, founding Stronger Women and other businesses, thinking clearly has been important for you. So how would you respond to why is it important to cultivate thinking that matters?
Well, it's important to cultivate thinking that matters because we all come through a filter and a lens that we were raised in. In my book, Hiding Next Door, I wrote my stories from childhood to teen to adult, and I put them in the segments of the Power and Control Wheel, which is a diagnostic tool for domestic violence. And what I found, Elizabeth, is I was sort of groomed to be abused. I was groomed to be an abused person by the systemic, by the generations, by the spiritual forces that were around me and that molded me. So my thinking was molded by these factors that limited me in a way that I thought maybe I wasn't good enough, or I couldn't do the business, or maybe I wasn't a good enough.
Caused you to question.
Exactly. It made me feel less than. It made me feel shame. So in these last 20 years, through creating Stronger, through helping women, and through learning from the women I help, I've had to change my thinking. And I continue to change my thinking. My thinking didn't just change one day and I'm better.
Absolutely.
I continue to struggle. Let's say I find a trigger. Even in my current day, I might be strong and everything, but that really gets to me. And I feel that knife go in, and those wounds from 20, 30, 40 years ago, they come back. But I have to be resilient enough and pull out my tools and be able to say, I can think differently. I can be differently, and then I can react differently.
That is one of those moments where you hit that minus 30 seconds and you listen to it again. That was so good. So good. I am so grateful for our conversation and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Obviously, yes, in the insurance space and the blind space, which is very important. Yeah. Specifically, though, in your desire to make a difference in the lives of women who are dealing with have and are dealing with domestic violence and still are trying to recover from the trauma of it. Mm-hmm. And that's, man, it's such an important ministry that will get pulled into business tree.
Yes, that's right.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me on the show.